Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a special happy birthday edition to the Cows channel, because it's my birthday today. Woo! But more importantly, we had this pushed back to today, because a lot of news happened this past Friday. This is a Cow's Opinion, where I go over the latest, greatest, and for the love of God, let this be the last part of the story in gaming, because Ubisoft sale has finally cleared the way for the CMA in the UK to approve the Big M buying Activision Blizzard. And that's a lot of funky words, but I'm looking forward to this finally be done. So, as we know, this past Friday, the Competition and Markets Authority said that Activision Blizzard's sale to Microsoft for an amazing $68.7 billion is finally satisfied, and they might go ahead and allow it to go through because they say that their worries are no more due to a recent agreement between Microsoft and Ubisoft to go ahead and sell cloud gaming rights. Now, the biggest takeaway from that long-winded sentence is, really? 68.7? You couldn't go for 69 for the memes? The story would have been a lot more happy if you had 69 as the official price. It's $300 million. Is that really a big thing to Microsoft? But no. So, as we know, the Activision Blizzard sale has been a long time ago. It was spring of 2022 when this got announced. And of course, governments around the world were a little about it because it was going to have a major console maker, developer, and publisher acquire one of the biggest publishers and game developers in the industry. That's a lot of consolidation. Now, Microsoft worked really hard, and over the year and a half that we've had this, slowly got approval from relevant industries and competition, and most importantly of all, government regulators. But there were a couple of missteps. First of all, the FTC said that they were going to sue to block the merger. And more shockingly, the CMA actually said that they did not think that it would be able to approve of the merger. In a very shocking initial statement earlier this year, because the CMA had initially said that they thought it would be okay. So, let's go back to the FTC thing first. The FTC went to court, and it was... to call it a poop show is probably the most user-friendly way of saying it. They had terrible arguments. They couldn't answer a judge's question. Nobody believed anything that they were saying, and basically they wasted time and money on something that they should have had an actual decent shot at preventing. The CMA, however, actually said they didn't think that buying Activision Blizzard was that big of a deal from a games point. Sony and the FTC have been arguing that you can't do it because Call of Duty was too big. But the CMA had a different and very strange argument. They said that it was cloud gaming rights and the future of that industry that made them too nervous to approve the Activision Blizzard buyout. Now, cloud gaming is the idea that all I really need is a monitor, maybe a very simple computer for streaming, and a controller, and I should be able to play awesome AAA games in up to 4K with no lag, and it's a beautiful dream to have. Here's the problem. It's massively too expensive. Very few people have the internet connection to even attempt it. There's tons of videos on YouTube you can see where people were testing out Stadia and getting terrible results, but worst of all, the infrastructure is just not there. And cloud gaming may or may not come and be a major contender in the future, but right now, it's not anything. But the CMA said that they were too worried about the cloud gaming rights to allow Microsoft to buy Activision Blizzard, which stunned everybody because, again, cloud gaming's not really a thing at the moment. But this past week, Microsoft has handed the CMA a major concession. The cloud gaming rights to all of Activision Blizzard's games have been carved out and sold to Ubisoft. Now, Microsoft can still put the games on their cloud servicing, but they still have to bid for them like any other competitors, and it can't withhold them from other services, which is Interesting. So the CMA, which was worried about the deal's potential to close out competition in the cloud gaming market, seemed satisfied. The prior sale of the cloud gaming rights will establish Ubisoft as a key supplier of content to cloud gaming services, replicating the role that Activision would have played in the market as an independent player. Now, this is provisional and not final, but there's not really any other concerns, and I don't feel like the CMA is going to pull another big, massive question mark at the end of the deal anyway. They got a lot of hate from gamers, from certain other industry and government regulators too, and the UK government was not happy because the UK gaming market, while not insignificant, is also not necessarily substantial enough to prevent the deal. And Microsoft and Activision said that maybe they would just withhold all necessary services from the UK. Now, we're gamers, and we don't always follow economic situations like we may adult and should. But right now, the UK has left the European Union and is really trying to get their economy back onto a solid footing. So having one of the biggest tech companies in the world withhold products and services, and more importantly, jobs and investments from your country, is not a good idea. And the CMA was honestly getting some flack from other government regulators and elected officials, not to mention gamers. And look, we're gamers. We need to be more polite online. We are not polite online. But it now seems that the CMA will give the deal an official green light before the extended deadline deal of October 7th, which is what Microsoft and Activision Blizzard said that they would push the deal out to. No penalty paid by Microsoft to make sure the deal went through, which means that Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, Candy Crush could be theirs within just a couple of weeks, and maybe added to their Games Pass subscription service, the best deal in gaming. And it's only going to make it a lot better. In fact, a lot of people have noticed that certain games like Call of Duty's online stuff and for older titles has been restarted and cleaned up. Almost as if they're getting ready to start putting things on Game Pass. Now, some people call this a victory, but I didn't think it was. And other people are warning, just like this article is, that why Microsoft was willing to carve out gaming rights is perhaps surprising. It indicates the lingering uncertainty over a sector that hasn't taken off as many in the industry had expected it to. Which means that, again, for all the reasons that Stadia failed, the technology, the infrastructure, and the cost borne by the consumer market are just nowhere near close enough to make cloud gaming a big thing that of any kind of significant number of gamers are going to want to do. It's expensive. It's very expensive, guys. To have the internet good enough is very expensive. And then, like Stadia, if they take the game off, you don't own it anymore. It's not like Steam. It's just cloud gaming. But it also illustrates how much Microsoft puts on other parts of the portfolio, like mobile gaming by Candy Crush Maker King. We forget a lot of times that it's not Activision Blizzard, it's Activision Blizzard King, officially. And that mobile gaming is a really big and expanding market. I've been playing the new Lost Stories from Code Geass. Love it. And it's sucked out a couple of dollars of the cow's wallet. I'm weak, and I needed more Lancelots to help fight for Britannia. Actually, I don't get to fight for Britannia, but if I could, I would, because they have really snazzy outfits. I digress just a little. We are encouraged by this positive development in the CMA's review process, said Microsoft President Brad Smith. We presented solutions that we believe fully address the CMA's remaining concerns related to cloud game streaming, and we will continue to work toward earning approval to close prior to the October 18th deadline. We also had a official CEO and troll Bobby Kotick speak up. This is a significant milestone for the merger and a testament to our solutions-oriented work with regulators. By the way, he kind of not so subtly threatened those regulators, so don't think it was all handshakes and high fives with this dude. I remain optimistic as we continue the journey towards completion, and am very grateful to each of you for your dedication and focus throughout this process. This was apparently a note to the company staff. The FTC is continuing its appeal process, but it's not going to succeed. this legal process also resulted in an enormous leak of confidential documents, and I believe it's actually someone on Microsoft's side that did it, which is probably great because it would have looked really stupid if the FTC lost a case and then leaked confidential information. But it's not really expected to succeed. They weren't able to argue any of their points. They don't really have any strong appeal. The deal is almost certainly going to go through before they can do anything legally. And I've said this a couple times in a couple of videos before, but it bears saying. In the United States, in the court system, it is much more difficult to break up a company than to block a merger. Which is why the FTC was really trying to get this merger lawsuit going and into the courts prior, and why we did this a couple months ago. You can block a merger, no problem. But after they've already spent billions of dollars and are starting to merge and the staffs are being rearranged and all that good stuff, the courts are a lot less likely to let you break them up. Really, I think the FTC is just throwing good money after bad. Sorry, my throat's a little parched. It is well after midnight. And trying to just, save a little face by saying, look, we're continuing the fight, but honestly, the FTC is also, I've been keeping up on CNBC, they're starting to file against other companies. I think they've honestly moved on, and they're just trying to appease certain congressional people. I said, look, we're still trying. It's not our fault the courts won't let us do it. Call of Duty on Game Pass in time for the holidays? Maybe. So what is the cow's opinion? This is hopefully done like dinner. We're done. We're done with this. If you have this stock, you're going to get your payment from Microsoft, and then Activision Blizzard no longer exists as a separate company. I can't possibly fathom the CMA, the FTC, Sony, anybody else having a valid argument that they've kept in their back pocket this long, because it's only going to be 2.5 weeks. 2.5 weeks and we're done. For the love of God, let us be done. Because this was a long fight, and at some point, even I was just like, well, man, just end it. I don't even care who wins anymore. So this is going to change the landscape of gaming. Not necessarily cloud gaming like the CMA was worried about. I still have no idea why they're worried about that. Maybe they know something the rest of us don't. I don't know. But now, Activision Blizzard's big hits like Call of Duty, Candy Crush, World of Warcraft are all going through. So, what does this mean? Well, Microsoft really wanted to get into the mobile game business, so King is going to be an instant win for them in their back pocket. Blizzard's a little bit harder. Their games have not been doing well. If you've been paying attention, Diablo 4, not so popular anymore. A lot of bad decisions were made. You have to roll a new character now for seasons or something like that. It's really stupid. And the player count for Diablo 4 is nowhere near what they were hoping, which doesn't look good if you want to do things like sell battle passes, DLCs, or expansions. Which leaves Activision, which still makes Call of Duty and is going to be huge. Now, the funny thing in all this, and I'm not saying I'm a Microsoft fanboy, but Sony was arguing that Microsoft was doing what they do a lot in Japan, which is Sony works with a lot of Japanese developers locally to be able to keep stuff from going to an Xbox for 6 to 12 months or longer. And so Microsoft has always had a really hard time getting a foothold in Japan. That was one of the reasons why it was hard for Sony to argue on behalf of the FTC in the courts, is because it was continuously pointing out, but don't you do something very similar in Japan? And some American politicians have started to ask about that. Now, I don't know if we're going to get anything to come from that, because this was the flavor of the month, and now that month has passed. But right now, Activision is probably bigger than any Sony company. And I mean, look, I love Bandai Namco. I'm a huge Super Robot Wars fan. I love a lot of my RPGs from Japan. But yeah, they're not making huge, massive... Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest, I love them. I love them to death. but they ain't selling like Call of Duty. Call of Duty is number one right now. The biggest thing that could go up against it is a Grand Theft Auto. And they have somewhat different business models. Call of Duty wants to come out annually, and Grand Theft Auto wants to be around each version of it for a long time, just continuously played. So you can't really, it's not apples to apples there. But this is going to be huge. Sony's going to watch as a Microsoft game is going to have to be available on every PlayStation. Sony could say, no, we're not going to approve any more Call of Duties. It would be a big mistake, because then it would be on them driving everybody to Microsoft's platform or to PC, which Microsoft has always had a much better PC presence than Sony, and you really don't want to drive anybody away. But, Microsoft has also said for the next 10 years they're going to work to get more stuff out on Switch that Activision Blizzard makes, and they're going to, ensure that all their products move. I think that Microsoft's actually going to enjoy getting a lot of money from their competitors' consoles now to fund their own studios and make even better games that will then drive you to buy Xbox. I think they're going to make a lot of money off of this, guys. Now, after those 10 years, does Microsoft turn into the evil villain corporation and do everything that Sony and the FTC were afraid that they would? I don't know. And anyone who says that they do know is probably lying. But Microsoft's going to do what's best for Microsoft. And if they can make more money with their games on every console, they're going to do it. And if they can make almost as much money with everything on their console, but also drive competition away, they're going to do it too. Guys, let me know down in the comments below what you think. Are you happy that Microsoft is finally buying Activision Blizzard? Are you really mad or upset, and why? Do you want to know, like I do, why in the hell Ubisoft bought cloud gaming rights when cloud gaming is not going to be a thing for at least half of that 10-year period? And for the love of God, does anybody in the comments know why the CMA was so worried about cloud gaming? Because I can wrap my head around most of this stuff. That one just boggles my mind. But let me know down in the comments below, and play more games, because games are awesome. And now more games might be on Game Pass, and you deserve that kind of awesome. And I'll see you next time.